Hoo-wee! Are the maintenance intervals on the Honda CRF450RL excessive? Well, let's talk about it and what exactly that looks like for you being the owner or the potential owner. So I've owned my 450RL for just shy of a year now, and I feel like this whole maintenance factor is something that keeps a lot of people away from this bike. It keeps a lot of people from considering this as a dual sport option, as just a fun hooligan toy. So I'm going to kind of walk you through exactly how owning this bike feels. You know, do you feel like you're wrenching on it more than you're riding it? Or is it actually not so bad in real life? So today, that's what we're gonna discuss. And what better way to do that than while changing the oil on it? So my name's Micah, welcome to the channel. Let's rip into it. Well, and we've got a little Keystone light too. We need a little working fuel. It is Sunday Fun Day. So now the CRF450RL first came out in 2019. Now the funny thing here is that the MSRP was $10,399 in the US. Now in 2025, 6 years later, the MSRP is $10,099. So in 6 years, as the price of everything is going up, the price of this bike has gone down by $300. I think it's the only motorcycle in the world that the MSRP has gone down on it in the last 6 years. Now, why exactly is that? Well, I think, so this bike was, you know, this was anticipated. Something like this, a lot of us dual sport riders, we really wanted just an MX style 450 that was street legal. We wanted something that didn't weigh, you know, 350 pounds, but weighed closer to what the MX version would. You know, we wanted just a weapon in the trails, something that you could take off massive jumps, do crazy hill climbs. And Honda had listened to all of us complaining about this for years and years. And I mean, they were the go-getters. They were the ones who decided to finally make that for us. And so I think right off the bat, Honda thought that this was just going to be so popular that they were going to fly off the shelves. And while a lot of us dual sport riders, you know, were really happy to finally see this bike, I think the initial price of it scared a lot of people off. I mean, it certainly deterred me, you know, me and a buddy, like, we wanted this bike so bad, but we were like, the price is so high. Maybe we wait a few years until the price comes down. And now in 2025, you know, a $10,000 price tag for a bike like this doesn't really seem so far-fetched anymore. But it was a combination of things, you know, it was the price being a little bit higher than we had hoped that it would be. It was the maintenance intervals, right? Your oil changes, Honda says, from the book, every 600 miles, your valve checks are every 1,800 miles. And so, you know, compared to some of your other dual sport offerings out there that would have oil changes every 3,500 miles, valve checks every 16,000, you know, or something of the sort. I think we all kind of looked at this when we were like, we're just going to be wrenching on that more than we'll actually be riding it. Which, yes, the maintenance intervals are more frequent than other bikes, but exactly what kind of riding will you actually be doing on this motorcycle? So the motorcycle itself is so light, you know, it's kind of geared, the whole thing is built to be just a Swiss Army knife off-road. So in all reality, when you actually own this bike, you're not putting on as many miles as you think that you're going to. Now, in just shy of a year's time, in about 10 months, I guess it's been 10 to 11 months that I've owned mine, I have put, 1,600 miles on it. Now you might say, that's not very many miles. Well, for me, this bike has always been one of 3, one of 4, one of 5 motorcycles, you know, in my garage. And I kind of ride everything equally. So when I have other options, other motorcycles to ride, you really find that this isn't the bike that you're gonna jump on to take down the highway, to take on a road trip. You know, it's not always the bike. While it is very fun just to rip around town and be an absolute menace, it's not something that you feel like doing every time. You know, the throttle, it's very jerky, it's very aggressive. The whole bike is very light. You get on this and you are in for a wild ride. There's not really a better way to put it than that. It's a very purpose-built machine, and not every day, not every situation is gonna be the right scenario, the right purpose, I guess, to jump on this bike. Oh, maybe that's on there. I need some leverage. Now, when you do find the right situation for the CRF450RL, no bike is gonna be better than it. There we go. Now, a big reason for why, say, the oil changes are every 600 miles on this bike is just that, whoa! Yeah, that oil is nice and warm. She is flowing out of there. Whoa! And it's a windy day. And that oil is still a pretty nice color. It's not even that dirty. But a big reason that the oil changes, you know, are so frequent compared to everything else is just that the oil capacity is so low on this bike. The bike only holds a quart of oil. So compared to some of the other bikes, you know, in the garage that have, say, a 3,000 mile oil change interval, well, those bikes hold like 4 quarts of oil. So, and the reason the 450RL has such a low, I guess, oil capacity is because this whole platform is built to be that Swiss Army knife off-road, you know? It's very compact, it's very nimble, it's very agile. And so if we had a bigger crank on this that held more oil, sure, we could get this exact motorcycle up to a 3,000 mile oil change interval, but it's just gonna end up being a bigger package. And so when you get to that technical stuff off-road, you know, those obstacles and mountains and whatever it may be that really challenges you, or those sand dunes that you want to just take monster jumps over, you're gonna want the lighter, more nimble, compact package. And so I think that's one of the things, it's just kind of the nature of the beast. And I'm doing an oil change today because I'm getting close to that maintenance interval, and my next week is really tied up. I'm gonna be busy with a lot of things. And so I figured I'd just do it today, you know, a couple miles shy of the actual maintenance interval. But with it only taking a quart of oil, I mean, my total cost to change the oil is $10. You know, I bought a bunch of filters for these. When I bought filters initially for this bike, I think I bought a 12 pack and I got a smoking deal, so it made them all like $1 a filter. Yeah, so all my oil changes on this, I guess my full cost is like $11 for a filter and the quart of oil. So it's not like you're gonna go broke off doing the basic maintenance for this motorcycle. And in a year's time, gosh, if I were to try, I gotta wipe the oil off all my stuff. Man, that really exploded out of there. It's because I was taking a rowdy morning ride on this thing, and so, yeah, that oil was a little bit warm. I got her all stirred up. But to try and convey and explain to you guys how much fun I have had on this motorcycle in under a year's time, oh my goodness. You know, I initially thought that I wanted to ride this bike and then I was just gonna sell it, keep getting other stuff. I mean, that's what I constantly do. I ride motorcycles, I review them, wrench on them, throw some parts on, and then we sell it, get another bike. Not because we thought the bike was not good by any means, but I'm just out to ride everything, right? I want to experience every different motorcycle from every different manufacturer ever made. That is my goal. I am working towards that. I'm getting closer every month. So far, I've owned 79 motorcycles, licensed and titled in my name. So the next bike that we get is going to be our 80th. That one has to be special. I still haven't decided on exactly what that'll be. And you can look at our other videos, you know, see the other bikes we've had. Yeah, we'll have them, we rip them, and in 30 days, you know, they're gone. Sometimes far less than that. And this one has stuck around through everything. It has outlived all of our other bikes in ownership. This one is just, I mean, I have a love-hate relationship with it. You know, it is so rowdy. It's not perfect for everything, but when you find that stuff that this bike is the perfect tool for the job, gosh, you just can't beat it. So, and then we haven't had to do our initial valve check. Now, to some people, a valve check might sound like some crazy task, you know. They're like, oh, it's scary, I don't know, I might take it to the dealership to do that, and then I'm gonna spend a ton of money. Well, so when you get this bike in your manual and everything, Honda just walks you through that whole valve check process. They have a ton of pictures and everything, detailed instructions of exactly what to do and how that goes down. I have zero anxiety, zero worries going into that when we do our first valve check, you know, in a couple months here, a couple 100 miles. We'll see what the weather does. It's October and it's still fair out, but in the Midwest, that could turn in an instant. Now, as far as any maintenance, you know, outside of your oil changes and your valve checks and stuff like that, you know, the only thing I've had to do since I bought this bike brand new with 1 mile on it, after a couple 100 miles, you know, 150 miles or so, maybe 100 miles, you know, I adjusted some controls. You know, I took maybe 1 millimeter of slack out of the throttle, did the same to the clutch, you know, because as you break in those controls, as they start to get used for the first time, sometimes you'll find that you need some adjustment on those, you know, on various motorcycles. But outside of that, I think I've, you know, tightened the chain maybe twice, and one of those times I didn't even really have to. You know, I was doing, you obviously have seen, we have a supermoto set up on our bike. I did a supermoto build on this just because I thought, you know, I might get a little bit more use out of this thing if I did have some street tires and I had it geared differently. And I was totally correct in that assumption. The miles have been racking up quicker since I did the sumo build. But yeah, everything else, I mean, has just been totally minimal. I thought going into this bike that I would have that feeling like I was always wrenching on it, and it's just been the complete opposite. This thing has just been a turnkey, problem-free, awesome, wild ride my whole ownership. A little bit more work and juice. So at the end of the day, this is kind of a hard motorcycle to compare to other dual sports and other things out there. I guess some of your KTMs and Husqvarnas, the gases, those are kind of those high performance dual sports with the more frequent maintenance intervals. So I guess it does kind of line up or compares to those motorcycles most closely. But oh man, I mean, compared to that stuff, it's just as fast as them. I don't care what it says on paper, you know. Once you get to those bikes, like who's lighter, who has more horsepower, this thing feels just so fast. It's so fast, and it's because it's so light. So one thing that I quickly deduced on this bike is that the maintenance intervals are probably more often than they have to be. Could you stretch this bike out to 1,000-mile oil changes? I think yes. Absolutely, zero questions asked, yes. And you know, most people that I've seen doing their valve checks on this bike, you know, the first one at 1,800, almost nobody reports any adjustment needed. A lot of people have the exact same thing to say at their second one as well. So, and I think the reason Honda did such a frequent valve check interval, I mean, you literally do have the CRF450R race motor here. So this is a very high performance engine in this thing. And Honda does have that reputation as being like the most reliable motorcycle manufacturer in the world. I mean, Yamaha and Kawasaki, you know, always give them a good run for their money, but I would say that Honda makes the most reliable cycles you could possibly buy in the entire world. And so there is a reputation there to uphold. And so I think that's a big reason that Honda put that 1,800 mile valve check interval interval in there. You know, they kind of operate on the whole mindset of it's better safe than sorry. We gave you a good machine. Let's make sure it stays the best. And so I do think that you have a motorcycle here that's gonna last you for a really long time. It's gonna stand up to all the abuse, all of the wear and tear, you know, whatever you wanna throw at this thing, it's gonna do it, and it's gonna do it flawlessly. And so I really just think that that was kind of Honda covering their ass. And I mean, if I were Honda, I would do the exact same thing. I mean, that's how you stay at the top. You don't want to be that motorcycle manufacturer that puts out a maintenance interval that's pretty stretched out because you don't want to deter people, but then you find out down the road, oh, we should have checked those valves maybe twice as often as we said, or changed the oil more frequently than we initially told people. So, and that's perfect. I like to see that from manufacturers, but just know, between you and I, those maintenance intervals are more frequent than they have to be. They erred on the safe side. Slip back on there, baby girl. There we go. You know, we just saw Suzuki revamp their DRZ, the old king of dual sport. I've had a few of the old DRZ 400Ss. And then finally, a gazillion years later, they did a facelift and an update and gave it a new look, gave it fuel injection, a bunch of different tweaks and changes. And the MSRP of that for a 400 is $9,000. Doesn't have near the suspension, doesn't have near the power, isn't as light as this one, has a 5-speed transmission, a steel frame. There's a bunch of things there that aren't quite up to the level of the CRF450RL, and that's still $9,000. I still haven't ridden one of those yet. That will happen, and of course I'm gonna ride this CRF450RL straight to the dealership, and we'll jump on a DRZ4 SM. That'll be a really cool comparison, and I will do that for you guys coming soon. Sometime we'll get her done. But then all of your KTMs and Husqvarnas, the gases that are comparable to this, are priced above $10,000. So while the CRF 450, well, L I guess it was when it first came out, seemed a little bit far-fetched and high-priced, now in today's market, I feel like you have a very, very competitive dual sport off-road weapon, you know, supermoto it out. You have a very capable and fun supermoto, and the capabilities and the price are top tier. They are right up there. It's competing with the best. Well, I suppose we can get our drain plug back in here. Well, and so hopefully even just changing the oil on this bike, as I talk to you guys, hopefully you've seen that nothing is crazy hard on this bike. Nothing is crazy complex. You know, Honda did a good job at making this bike very easy and very approachable for anybody to wrench on, for anybody to maintain. Well, so now I'm just gonna put my oil in. I'll let it run for just a bit, and then that's that. We're good for more smiles and miles. So at the end of the day, all said and done, no, I don't feel like the maintenance on this bike is excessive. You know, it's for what it is. Yeah, there's just things that come along with that. But in no scenario do I feel like I'm wrenching on this motorcycle all the time. I am certainly riding it much more than I am wrenching on it. And you know, I like where this bike has fit in my lineup, being one of multiple bikes. You know, this bike is really, I mean, it's really good on its own, but I think when you'll really enjoy owning this bike is when it's one of multiple bikes, when it's a second bike that you have, you know, and that other bike being a more street-focused bike, because this is such an off-road, performance-focused dual sport or street-legal dirt bike, whatever you want to call it. It's so aggressive and dirt-focused that I think if you have another motorcycle in addition to this, whether that's a sport bike, a naked, a cruiser, even a scooter, say a Honda Navi, something that's totally street, It's totally easy, totally carefree. That's when you're really gonna fall in love with this motorcycle. And even though I do have a Sumo, a Supermoto setup on it right now, so like, yeah, I built it for street. It's just a wild ride on the street. And sometimes I like to slow it down and just smell the roses and just cruise. So because of this being one of multiple bikes, yeah, that has really helped me enjoy it. And truth be told, this thing isn't going anywhere. I'm not selling it. There is no way, because I still have my enduro setup. So in 30 minutes, maybe an hour, I can convert it back to be the craziest thing off-road that you could possibly imagine. And it's still street legal. Yeah. Ride to the mountain, go straight up the mountain, ride home. Yeah, there's just cool things about that. Having like the craziest thing you can off-road, but it's still street legal. That's cool. That's powerful. So comment if you guys have any questions at all. You know, as far as this bike, yeah, I did the Sumo build. I've got kind of a full exhaust system that I kind of pieced together. It's a no-name header I bought. It's a random muffler I threw on there. The bike does have a performance ECU flash then, so it runs perfect with that full exhaust system. I'm still rocking the factory air filter, you know. I've only had to clean it once, and well, I didn't even have to clean it. I pulled it out and it wasn't very dirty, and I tried to blow or clean any dirt out of it. Not really anything came out of it. So yeah, haven't really done a whole lot to it. It's just been an incredible machine for me. 10 out of 10, 5 stars, would recommend. So comment with any questions at all. Otherwise, like the video if this helped you out. Subscribe if you want to see more. And until next time.